Hey everyone, it's Zack Beck. The Biden administration released its regulatory agenda. From fighting climate change all the way to strengthening protections against discrimination, it covers a lot of ground. Unlike his budget, it does talk about student loan forgiveness. As a matter of fact, it directs Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona to improve the eligibility requirements for those who could actually have their student loans canceled. So what I want to do in this video is break down in detail the actual proposals that are in this regulatory agenda, how much student loan debt they're actually anticipating to cancel, the timeline by which this could actually occur, and also how this will impact you directly in case you have outstanding student loans. So let's take our time, dive into the details, and jump into it right now. As previously mentioned, the Biden administration released its regulatory agenda, and as it relates to student loan forgiveness, it says the following. It says that it's going to direct Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona to improve student loan cancellation authorities and amend regulations to improve borrower eligibility, application requirements, and processes for borrowers who meet loan cancellation criteria. So this is a pretty significant development as we're looking towards where this is going to go from here. There have been various calls from Senator Schumer and Senator Warren to cancel up to $50,000 of student loans, and President Biden actually campaigned on canceling up to $10,000 in student loans. However, the recent budget that was released by the Biden administration did not talk at all about what was going to happen to student loans. So you as a student loan borrower might be wondering what in the heck is going on. So this is a very important step that has been taken by the administration as they've laid out this regulatory agenda. By saying they're going to amend certain requirements as it relates to student loan forgiveness, that is important for us to be aware of, because what happened previously is that was actually an agency created to oversee student loan forgiveness. During the Obama administration, the Education Department created the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. This was where they created specific criteria for people to be eligible to actually have their student loans forgiven. And this would apply to individuals who maybe became permanently disabled or who went to a school that they were defrauded by, maybe a for-profit university that scammed them out of money, or if that school later on went default and then their degrees were worth nothing. So they set this criteria up so that people could actually apply and actually have their student loans forgiven. And this actually worked during the course of the Obama administration, where nearly 99% of those who were eligible actually received some form of student loan forgiveness. Obviously, the amounts vary depending upon each individual, but a lot of people were able to have their student loans forgiven if they met the criteria. Now, when we shifted over to the Trump administration, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos actually had the exact opposite happen. They still had the same program in place, but those who actually applied to receive student loan forgiveness, 99% of those people did not have their student loans forgiven. So we see a very significant sway going from one party in one administration to the other as to how they've handled student loans. And I want to be very clear from a political perspective, I'm not here to tell you that canceling student loans is a good thing or that it is a bad thing. I have my own opinions about that, but I believe what is important for you to understand is what is happening right now by the administration, what they're proposing right now. So from that standpoint alone, you might have varying degrees of opinion. Feel free to let me know what those are in the comment section down below, because I know this can be a very heated topic. So now that diatribe is done, it's important for us to understand that we did see a shift going from the Obama administration to the Trump administration as to how student loan forgiveness was handled. And now we're shifting over to the Biden administration. And as a reminder, President Biden served as vice president to Barack Obama. So we do see probably a similar approach going in the Democratic Party and with a new president in office. So from that standpoint alone, what he has done is he directed his education department to review the actual regulations and criteria for those who could have their student loans forgiven. So it appears as though he's setting up the framework to have some form of student loan cancellation moving forward. Now, you might be asking yourself, how much money is going to be canceled from student loans? I want to talk about that next. When it comes to the total amount of student loan cancellation that might occur as part of this proposal, it is still unclear at this moment in time. There are various voices on this particular issue, mainly from the Democratic side of the aisle, that are advocating in certain respects. Right now, you have Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, along with Senator Elizabeth Warren, advocating President Biden to cancel up to $50,000 of student loan debt. Now, President Biden has said already that he doesn't plan to cancel that much. He's even been in a town hall saying that to a specific student who asked him that very question. However, recently, because he's been getting pressure from that side of the Democratic Party, he told them to continue having their advocacy and he'll make his own decision. But I want to be very clear about this. On the campaign trail and all of the literature and all the information he had on his website when he was actually running for office, President Biden said that he was comfortable canceling up to $10,000 of student loans. But recently, he has been quoted as saying that he does not feel comfortable canceling student loans for individuals who attended an Ivy League school, such as Harvard or Yale. So from that standpoint alone, it looks like we don't have clarity yet as to what he's going to do. And specifically, because that wasn't included in the budget, we don't know where this is heading right now. Now, as it relates to the total amount that could be canceled, it's really understanding whether or not Biden is going to be supportive of $10,000 or all the way up to $50,000. I would be one to venture to guess that if he were to do something, it's going to be more on the lower threshold at $10,000. And I believe that is important for you to understand. If you were a student loan borrower who's waiting for your student loans to be canceled by the administration, I think it's really important for you to do everything you can in your personal life to have your finances set up so that you can tackle those loans as quickly as possible by yourself, so that way you're not in a difficult situation if they decide not to cancel those student loans. And if they do, then you can obviously allocate funding and finances into investments in other areas of your life. But if they do move forward with this, it still looks like we're going to be a little bit of a ways off from that, because timing is critical on this particular issue, not only because we don't know whether it's going to be done via executive order or via an act of Congress. That could impact whether or not this actually becomes something that is going to impact your life at all. You might be asking yourself, what is the timeline for student loan forgiveness to actually go into effect? Well, as it relates to the recent regulatory agenda that was put out by the Biden administration, this review that they are conducting of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, they're saying they want to have a final review of that conducted by the end of April 2022. So we're talking next spring, when we would even have the overall recommendations based off of the review of this particular program. So it looks like the absolute earliest we could see any form of student loan forgiveness, barring any unforeseen circumstances, if Biden stays along this track, it looks like next spring, April 2022, we will have a better understanding of where things are. Now, obviously, political dynamics can shift. He might make a decision more rapidly than that, but that is what they said in this announcement that they released not too long ago. So I would be wanting you to understand that, because if you are waiting for your student loans to be forgiven, or if you're holding off on payments or anything to that extent, you really want to be cautious if you're putting all of your faith in something happening sooner than next spring. Now, when it comes to the political dynamics at play in this particular situation, I believe it's important for us to understand where all these different people are coming from. If you're listening to Senator Chuck Schumer, he is someone who, like I said before, is a Senate Majority Leader. He's a Democrat from New York, which is a relatively liberal state. And he has to run for re-election to the Senate into his own seat, and he needs to make sure that he does not get challenged in a primary by someone who might be more liberal than him, say someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And if he does get challenged by someone like that, it is very likely that he could lose his primary seat and then ultimately lose his ability to serve in the Senate moving forward. So he personally is under a lot of political pressure to advocate for something like a $50,000 student loan forgiveness. And from that standpoint alone, that kind of informs where he is coming from. Whereas President Biden serves in more of the middle lane of the Democratic Party on most issues, he is at least perceived to be more moderate. So that's why you're seeing him gravitating more towards that $10,000 threshold, because he wants to appeal to people in the Midwest and in the West who might be a little bit more conservative in the Democratic Party than someone, say, from New York. Now, I'm not telling you whether or not either of these guys have a good perspective on that. That is just what is going on. And then furthermore, when you look at Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, once again is a relatively liberal state. She previously served as a professor at Harvard, so she has certain empathy for those who are students who might have to pay a lot of money to go to school. So that informs her decision. And similarly, she doesn't want to get primaried from the left as well. So that's just a dynamic that you want to be aware of, not because it's going to impact you directly, but I believe it's important for us to understand that if you're making personal decisions for your finances based off of what is happening in the political arena right now, it is very tenuous, because you do not know what is going to happen in the future, because politics can be very messy. Complicating this even further is that if President Biden wants to have this passed by an act of Congress, he needs to have both the House of Representatives and the Senate pass that. And what you're going to find right now is in the Senate, there are 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans, with Kamala Harris, the vice president, being the tie-breaking vote. Therefore, if he were to even want to get this passed through Congress in the House, he has a slim majority in the House of Representatives, but he could get that passed. But then if he wants it in the Senate, he needs to make sure that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and more of his conservative Democratic senators would actually support this, and it is not clear if they would. So from that standpoint alone, I believe it is important for us to understand that these political dynamics will influence the way this actually comes out in the end, and that could have a dramatic impact on yourself as someone who might have student loans that you're hoping to have canceled. Now you might be wondering, who does this actually benefit if student loans are canceled? Now I've talked before about some people make the argument that if they have outstanding student loans, it's very difficult for them to move forward in their career. It's very difficult for them to actually go and purchase a home or start a family, contribute to the economy, things of that nature. So that's an argument that comes from other people. Also, some people say they don't want people who are wealthier getting their student loans canceled, like President Biden even said. Now, I did a bit of research on this to find out how student loan cancellation would affect people based off of their economic threshold. Maybe if they're lower class, middle class, or upper middle class when it comes to how much revenue or how much income they make. And there was actually a survey conducted by the Roosevelt Institute. And the Roosevelt study concluded that those in the top 10% of households for net worth, the cancellation is only going to be up to $562 per person, but the estimated cancellation for someone who is Black and in the bottom 10% is $17,366. And for white people in the bottom 10%, the average would be $12,617. So it shows that there could be a racial dynamic at play here, but also depending upon where you are at in the different economic categories, it might impact you differently if student loan debt is actually canceled. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please tap the like button for the YouTube algorithm, help push this video to other people who might need to hear it. Furthermore, if you wouldn't mind, please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, do any research on your behalf so you can make well and wise informed decisions moving forward. Furthermore, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create positive content that makes a positive impact in your life by encouraging you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I hope you have a wonderful day every day. Talk to you next time.